Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Merry stupid o'clock. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. And God, folks, I'm not looking forward to today. Mandatory OT. Mandatory. I don't mind voluntary, but freaking mandatory. Which means my day has gone from an 8 hour to a 9 hour and 30 minutes. God. So, yeah, pray for me. Pray for me. Anyways, we are going back to that horrible world known as the JRC. But before we get going this morning, a few of the usual disclaimers. First off, you are going to see the blah, 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 blah. I can't talk. You are going to see the link to this note from Medicaid right there in the description box, alongside the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, the templates, sign your name, click on your senator, takes less than 2 minutes. We are trying to end adversive therapy, seclusion, and improper restraints in schools. It kills kids every single year. Believe me, I know. I get the reports, okay? I get to read this on top of everything else that I do and deal with on a daily basis. So please take 2 minutes out of your day if you haven't already did it. Okay, share it on your social media, please. Thank you. We also have the ever-present change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. Now, folks, when we talk about the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of, as well as catch surveillance footage of, people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you have young children present, please use your headphones. Now, obviously, folks, I'm coming in a little bit later than usual. This is going to be a relatively short video, but it is still 3:31 a.m. stupid o'clock in the morning. So if I stumble over any of my words, my apologies in advance. So we're going to where we left off yesterday. And yes, folks, we're just going to read 2 pages this morning. We're going to keep it brief. Describe the state's processes to ensure. Okay, this is in closure. Describe the state's processes to ensure that UMMS, University of Massachusetts Medical School, quality data is accurate. Include specific information regarding the validity of UMMS sampling methodology when less than 100% of waiver participants or providers are reviewed with regard to performance measures and outcomes. Include sample summary data from states agencies' activities to validate UMMS quality reports. Number 2, the state reported that state surveyors review providers as part of licensure and certification process and review a sample of individuals served who have behavioral plans or restrictive interventions in place. Remember, this is true throughout the state of Massachusetts, everywhere but at the JRC, because they are not under DDS. These people, because of that stupid 1988 consent decree, are able to not have to face the same regulations as literally every single other place, operating center, day program, anyone providing people with developmental disabilities or mental health issues in the state of Massachusetts. Outcomes for this performance measurement of appropriate safeguards for restrictive interventions were reported at 74% and 77% for waiver years 1 and 2, respectively. Of the providers reviewed, 38 providers used restrictive practices in waiver year 1, and 22 used these practices in waiver year 2. Of the 38 in year 1, 28 had appropriate safeguards in place. Of the 22 providers in year 2, 17 had appropriate safeguards in place. Describe further the findings for this performance measure and remediation efforts taken by the state to address any deficiencies. So Medicaid is literally asking this state to do its damn job and regulate this place. If they are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, like every other center in the damn state, and if it's not, then they should have the right to remove any waivers in regards to providing money for quote unquote services. But poor federal Medicaid, they don't seem to understand that in Massachusetts, the JRC has repeatedly shown that they are above the law, unlike any other state in the damn union. But moving on. With regard to the use of adversive interventions characterized by the state as Level 2 and Level 3 interventions, list all HCBS waivers whose participants could be subject to these procedures. Are additional Medicaid beneficiaries who are receiving state plan services, such as habitation, also subject to these procedures? Provide a full description of the scope of this treatment on Medicaid eligible individuals. In other words, Medicaid is asking for you need to document and tell us why it is these kids, quote unquote, need to have these kinds of therapies if you want us to pay for it. If you cannot provide any sane, logical, coherent reason as to why these kids need to be shocked, food deprived, and sleep deprived, then we should have the right to yank our waivers away and not provide you money to torture people. At least that's what I'm getting from it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please provide detailed census and expenditure data on Medicaid eligible residents for all residential providers that are permitted to use adversive interventions described in 115 CMR Chapter 5 as Level 2 and Level 3 interventions. This information must include the following detail: stratified by provider and by age group, age 0 to 20, ages 61 to 64, 65 and older, home state Massachusetts or other state if placed by family or home, state agency, total number of residential facilities, unduplicated number of residents, further stratified by Section 1915 HCBS waiver participation, if any, total Medicaid payments, whether made directly by the provider by Mass Health, DDS, or other entities such as local education authorities, for example, school-based services. Okay, so this is somewhat similar to my state. We have this thing, and it causes as much issues as it helps, where you have to first obtain and be on Medicaid in order to obtain services. How it works is that the state, RDMH, their DDS, acts kind of like a filter. They provide the case management, at least here in Missouri, and then case management through person-centered planning will then work with you to determine what agency or operation or company providing services is going to be the best fit for the individual with the disability. Once that agency is picked, then those services that the person with the disability receives is then funded by the state through Medicaid. At least that's how it works over here in this state. It looks like that is very similar there in Massachusetts, that the filter should be DDS, which is why DDS is given the authority to yank or provide licensure for a place like JRC to run. The problem with that is DDS has its hands tied behind its back when it comes to the JRC, even though they're still used as the middleman. Because of that 1988 consent decree, the people with disabilities or mental health issues are given court-appointed guardians and court-appointed caseworkers, as opposed to having a caseworker from DDS that helps to determine what provider is going to be the best fit. DDS's hands are also tied because they cannot force the JRC to meet the regulations that everybody else in the state has to meet. So there are large glaring problems there, as I'm sure you can see. But Medicaid, JRC still expects Medicaid for those on the HCBS waiver to continue to fund the quote unquote what they call treatments in regards to the students that are being funded through them, even though they are not meeting DDS regulations that everyone else in the state has to meet. Interesting, isn't it? I think it's interesting. Okay. And that's a chart there. They have a chart to prove it. Alright, moving on. Page 4 here. Submit the most recent licensing and certification reports. State, federal, and foster care reports. Department of Education reports. Summary reports of incidents and complaints. Restraint summary reports and mortality reporting data, including data regarding the Judge Rotenberg Center and other residential providers that are permitted to use adversive procedures on Medicaid eligible individuals. My God, Medicaid's like, we want the damn paperwork. And the JRC is like, how dare you? They're the federal government. Cough it up. The information should include the most recent provider reports by the Department of Developmental Services from its annual standard quality review process. Information should include summary reporting of the data reviewed, analyzed by the Director of Human Services for Medication Occurrences, healthcare records and deaths, and summary reports of the State Director of Human Rights reviews of all restraint reports. I'm not surprised they don't want to provide Medicaid with this information. Are you surprised? I'm not surprised. According to the information provided for the quality review, 86% of the individuals living in community homes reported they received the services they need. Provide additional information regarding this outcome data, including steps taken to improve outcomes for access to services. What specific action is taken to ensure that individuals in residential facilities where adversive treatments are used are able to participate in their service planning? None. See, Medicaid has been a huge supporter and backer of the person-centered planning method, and they have been working on getting that spread nationally for quite some time. And the JRC, they don't like person-centered planning at all. Moving on. The quality review material submitted for the CMS review included the following assertions. The waiver program obviates the need for institutional care. The quality system is designed to create continuous presence with individuals and providers. The state provides the rigorous measurement of health, safety, and human rights, and significant emphasis on other qualities of life domains, including community integration, relationships, choice and control, and accomplishments, none of which the JRC can provide. Is anyone surprised Medicaid hasn't yanked funding yet, considering the JRC does not do any of these things? Please explain how these elements of the state's quality monitoring and oversight are assured with regard to Medicaid and HCBS waiver eligible individuals receiving residential habilitation and other services provided by HCBS waiver service providers authorized to use aversive procedures. The quality information provided by the state indicated that the Medicaid director is responsible for coordinating the overall administration and support of the Mass Health Program across the EOHHS agencies, including Department of Developmental Services. Please describe coordination of efforts among these agencies and coordination between the agencies and the State Department of Education and other agencies serving children and people with disabilities, specifically with regard to ensuring the health and safety of people residing in residential facilities under the regulatory authority of the state. Thank you. Remember when I told you that used to be my job? I would go into group homes, day programs, and other operations to make sure that they were up to state regulations and that it was a safe, healthy environment. Yeah, that's what Medicaid's talking about here. Include information about coordination of responses to information provided by mandated reporters to the Disabled Persons Protection Commission. The information provided for the quality report indicated that 94 to 95% of individuals receiving HCBS waiver services knew how to report abuse and neglect, and that service providers were required to provide training to people who did not know how to do this. Please provide details regarding your follow-up activities to ensure required remediation occurred. They can't at all. They can't. The media reports concerning the Judge Rotenberg Center allege that staff are able to drop services from care plans of individuals at the center, including therapy services. Please describe fully how the state ensures that the individuals are provided all medically necessary services and all needed HCBS waiver services. Include an explanation of the role of the case managers and supervisory case managers, ensuring that the federal waiver assurances for services planning are met. Medicaid wants evidence, you see. They want evidence that this quote unquote works and that they are actually meeting state regulations. JRC can't because they're not meeting state regulations. They are, in fact, engaging in the abuse and torture of the students there. It in no means at all meets quality of care, in spite of what they may tell you. They starve those kids, brutalize those kids, they sleep deprive those kids, they systematically turn them into unfeeling zombies. So, the fact that Medicaid was looking in on all of this, and they were asking, give us the documents to show us this actually works. And if it doesn't work, what are you doing to remedy the situation? How many want to bet that they didn't provide them anything? And then my question has to be, if JRC to this date has not provided any sort of evidence that this is going to be any assistance to anyone who's on that HCBS waiver through Medicaid at all, I don't know if Medicaid might have the power to shut them down or at least yank everyone on that waiver out of the facility. We'll have to look into that later, but I'm going to go ahead and close out on this thought. We don't get very many views on this channel, especially on this subject. The few that we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So folks, please don't forget to hit that like button, hit subscribe, don't forget to hit the comments, and please feed that algorithm. I do appreciate your time this morning, and as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.